In a rare admission, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov acknowledged that Russia is currently fighting the war in Ukraine without any allies, a situation the country has never faced before in its history. Speaking to the Territory of Meaning Forum, Lavrov described Russia's current international position as one of isolation. Russia is fighting alone against the entire West, Lavrov said. For the first time in its history, Russia is battling the entire West without support. Russian Foreign Minister said, "We have a lot to do, and the most important thing we need to do is to defeat our enemy. For the first time in its history, Russia is fighting against the entire West alone. We had allies during both World War I and World War II. Now we have no allies on the battlefield, so we must rely only on ourselves. We must not lapse into or show weakness," Lavrov said. The Russian FM added that Western elites are openly showing their willingness to kill Russian soldiers. According to Lavrov, the Europeans seriously want to defeat us, and this, in my opinion, is confirmed every day. He noted that the attitude towards this among European elites has become almost self-evident. Also, the Russian FM drew attention to the fact that the West cannot give up the hegemony that it has enjoyed for the past 500 years. Lavrov believes that this is especially clearly expressed in today's Europe, where they strive to subordinate everything to their will and do not want to take into account even pragmatic considerations. Lavrov further emphasized that Russia would continue to pursue what it considers its legitimate security demands, which include Ukraine's non-alignment with NATO, a halt to NATO's eastward expansion, and the recognition of territorial realities, essentially Russia's annexation of Ukrainian territories. These, according to Lavrov, are non-negotiable conditions for any potential peace settlement. But recently, hundreds of mercenaries from 48 countries recruited to fight for Russia against Ukraine have been identified in an investigation by the independent Russian media outlet Important Stories. Despite Russian President Vladimir Putin's earlier claims that Russia had no need for foreign fighters, the data reveals widespread recruitment through official military selection points in Moscow. Journalists obtained names and nationalities of the mercenaries through a leaked database from the United Medical Information and Analytical System of Moscow. According to the publication, these individuals passed through Moscow's recruitment center between April 2023 and May 2024. Of the more than 1,500 foreigners processed, at least 1,300 have been identified by nationality. Nepal tops the list, joining the Russian army. The influx reportedly began in small groups in mid-2023, escalating to over 370 Nepalese recruits passing through the Moscow selection point in October alone. Other nationalities include citizens of Sri Lanka, China, India, Serbia, Cuba, and Latvia. From former Soviet states, recruits include citizens of Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Moldova. North Korean troops had fought alongside Russia since late 2024. They saw combat in Russia's Kursk Oblast, but didn't cross into Ukraine. That might soon change. Ukrainian officials assess that North Korea has additionally deployed 20,000 to 30,000 troops to Russia, though the number could be lower, a senior Western diplomat told, citing Ukrainian intelligence. The crew of the 2nd Self-Propelled Artillery Battery of Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade hid in a bunker under a line of trees. The 8 men were in a cramped, filthy space with only room for 2 bunk beds and 2 tables. One of the soldiers filmed Russian positions with his drone to show British weapons at work on the front. The Times reports, "That was our shot. We fired, and here's the result. Look, it hit the target. There's a bunker in the tree line, and here's another one. It hit the very spot where they're hiding. Good job, guys. Surgical." said the drone operator with the call sign Bear. The publication recalled that in May, the British Army transferred 89 AS-90 self-propelled guns to Ukraine. In particular, the 3rd Assault Brigade received at least 12 units of such equipment, which replaced the Soviet 2S-19 MSTA-S. According to the military, they are happy with this weapon. If the gun is in good condition, if we've checked it and everything is okay, it works very well. It feels like it was designed with the operator in mind, said the crew commander, call sign Skripal. It is noted that the interior of the gun is spacious. Compared to the old Soviet artillery, it is better armored and absorbs the powerful vibrations of the 155mm gun well. The crew also claims that these installations are subject to heavy use, for which they were not designed, resulting in wear and tear. These are good guns. They can shoot 8 times the stated life of the barrel, but after 8,000 rounds, you might hit the target on the 5th shot instead of the 3rd, warned Sergeant Lyon. The Times noted that the 3rd Assault Brigade has been holding back the Russians around the strategic city of Izium in the Kharkiv region for over a year, despite intense enemy attacks. When the enemy starts to attack our infantry, we enter the battle to prevent them from even getting close. I had a situation when about 30 Russians started to gather near the forest belt, preparing to attack our guys, the stormtroopers, but they didn't succeed. We fired a few shells and that was it. None of them wanted to return. Skripal said. In turn, the use of AS-90 installations by Ukrainian defenders pleased their allies from Great Britain. The UK's AS-90 artillery platforms, which, thanks to their high rate of fire, survivability and good mobility, have become a very effective tool for stopping Russian attacks. The UK's support for Ukraine remains unwavering. This is why we are stepping up the 50-day campaign to arm Ukraine and forcing Putin to the negotiating table, said Luke Pollard, UK Under-Secretary of State for Defence for the Armed Forces. The publication recalled that initially Great Britain intended to send Ukraine only 30 howitzers. However, the Ukrainian military turned out to be so clever that they were given all the installations. The artillery systems developed in the 1990s were reportedly decommissioned by the British Army because they were too old and slow to meet the demands of a modern battlefield. However, they are still proving important in Ukraine and have become a priority target for Russian drones. There was one case when we were hit by a winged drone. It hit close to our firing position. But since we always use camouflage nets and branches, the cumulative charge only slightly scratched the armor, shared Skripal.